Okay, now we're going to discuss about SSAS and MDX, the most important part of Microsoft BA. Okay, and let's see where this SSAS fits first of all. Okay, let me take. This is one of my devices, and there are types. This is Excel, the first one. The second one is Notepad, and third one is Server. Fourth, let's say, is MS Access or something like that, or another Excel sheet. Excel, I mean, in number of data sources, different kinds of data sources. It's not mandatory that you should have only SQL Server. All files, all data should be from SQL Server, or all data should be from your Excel sheet. Okay. Now I have different data, and I will do all those data into destination. Okay. Let me tell you an example. I have sales data. I'm the owner of a very big factory, soaps manufacturing factory, and that factory manufactures Liril, Chintal, and 10 different soaps. Okay, and my sales are good in few areas, and in few areas it is not good. I have to compare and I have to find out. I have to analyze myself what the problem in some areas where it is not good, and which market. I mean, in which what is the competitor for my soaps that is good in the location where my market is very poor. So to do that, what I have to do is I have to get sales from all the locations, and I have to analyze based on the different sales in the country. For example, I am gonna analyze my sales, my soap sales in India country. In a country, let's say it's India. For that, what I have to do is I will ask you a simple question: how you are gonna tell the sales that has happened for a little soap in November 2011 throughout India? The only way is you have to go to each and every shop, or you have to go to each and every wholesale shop, and you have to know how many sales happen. If you want to do the same, imagine how many shops, wholesale shops are there in India, and how many resources you need to find out that calculation, to find out that output, to find out the sales that have happened for Liril soap in November 2011. It is a very tough task to get the sales in this fashion, correct? So what we will do is, instead of going to each and every retail shop to find out the sales of a particular soap or particular product, what we will do is we will buy data from them on a monthly basis. Okay, I have 1,000 shops in India, let's say, and if I pay some money to them, they will give me data on monthly basis. At the end of the month, they will push the data into my server. So data will be ready in my server, and it is not mandatory that the data should be in any particular database type. Like, for example, everyone should send in SQL servers, or everyone should send in Excel sheets. It depends on the shop's size. If it is very big market kind of thing, supermarket kind of thing, they may be using SQL server as their database. And if it is very small retail shop, then they will be using Excel sheet to store their data, the sales of each product that happen in the shop. So in that case, at the end of every month, I will get data from all different sources into my server. So I have different set of files. Whatever may be the data source file, for example, Excel, Notepad, or Access, the data in it will give me the information about the number of products sold in that particular retail shop. So in that case, I can make use of the data. I can calculate, I can make some useful reports, analytical reports, to analyze the business of any particular product in any particular location and in any particular period. Okay. For that, what I have to do is, the best way of getting the result is moving the data into one master data source. For example, I have Excel here. I have a SQL server here. If I want to find out the sales from these 5 different sets of data sources, what I have to do is, a person who is going to calculate this should know SQL Server, should know Oracle, should know MS Access, should know how to calculate in Excel and how to calculate in how to get the details from Notepad. So he has to know all the languages to find out one product sales. Okay, it is very difficult, tough process, tough task to get the details of a particular product. The best way is if I can move all the data into one destination, one database destination, whether it may be Excel or SQL Server or anything, then the advantage will be the person who is going to calculate the product sales, if he knows any one database language in which we are storing the data warehouse, then he can easily calculate. Now let's say this Excel data is moved into the SQL Server. Let's say this one is SQL Server, the big data warehouse to which we're gonna move data is SQL Server. And let's say I move this Excel data into the SQL Server data warehouse, Oracle data into SQL Server, and other SQL Server into this data warehouse, and I move all the data into SQL data warehouse. If I have data in this data warehouse, and if the same question asked to me, like sales of a particular product in November 2011, then I can write a simple query like select sum of sales from table where month is equal to November and year is equal to 2011. So that one will give me the desired output, what I am looking for. So at this level, if I have data, in different formats and in different locations with the retail shop guys, it will be very difficult for me to analyze. To simplify the things, I move data into the data warehouse. And the tool that I am using to move this data from many different sources to one destination database is SSIS. Okay. In full form of SSIS is SQL Server Integration Services. I use SQL Server Integration Services into main data warehouse. Now I have data in my data, easy to calculate. As I said, by writing single query, you can get the details. You can get the results easily and very quickly. Very quickly, if the data warehouse is very small, it is very quick. It will be very quick. Now assume I'm pulling data into this data warehouse and I loaded 10 years data. 10 years products, 10 years sales of the products that sold in India. And I can say the data will be damn huge and the transaction table will have something around 100 crore records in it. So if you run a query, the same query what I explained, like select sum of sales from table where month is equal to November and year is equal to 2011, again it's such a huge table, then for sure it will take 15 to 20 minutes minimum. 15 to 20 minutes to fetch you the result, and it may take 2 hours, 3 hours and 4 hours, sometimes it depends on the data warehouse size. Okay. Now when compared with this scenario, like having many different data sources, this one is better. When I use SSIS and move the data into one data warehouse, it is comparatively better than the other way of getting the details of the product sales. But still, if I have huge data, if I have complete history of data, then it creates some problem, like performance issue will be there. It will take a hell of time to query the data from your data warehouse. And let's assume I have one more tool which converts this data warehouse into another database, but in different format. You know data warehouse is two-dimensional and we call it as relational database. Okay. Let's say I am converting this relational database or two-dimensional database into multi-dimensional database. And I am naming it as cube. And I am using a tool called SSAS to convert relational database into multi-dimensional database. Okay. And let me tell you the difference between relational database and multi-dimensional database. If you go to SQL Server, you can see rows and columns in any table. So two-dimensional database is simply consists of tables which will have rows and columns. Multi-dimensional tables, I mean multi-dimensional database will have many dimensions. It's not like two-dimensional data which we have in data warehouse or SQL Server databases or relational databases. Okay, and if you see, now this is super fast. Once I create cube using SSAS solution, SSAS tool, I mean I'm converting the two-dimensional database to multi-dimensional database using SSAS. The SSAS cube database output is, I mean querying the data from cube database is too fast, lightning fast. I can say 10,000 times faster than querying to relational database. So this is fine. If I query the same data, what I want, like November 2011 sales of a particular product, I'll get it in 1 second or less than a second. So this is enough for analysis purpose. So, but we have one more tool here. We have one more tool called SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services, and the use of the tool is, I cannot give, as I told you, this is also a database but in different format, multi-dimensional format. I cannot give a database to the end user and ask them to query and see the result what they want. Instead, what we will do is, we will create some SSRS reports, I mean reports using SSRS, and we will give access to this report to the end user. Okay, and if you see from start to end, if you at the first point we have some raw data that is coming from different sources, like different retail shops or different pharma companies if it is pharma related project, and from different cricket databases if it is cricket related database, and from different machines if it is manufacturing related project. We'll be getting from different sources and in different formats. Okay, but we will move all the different format raw data into one destination data warehouse. Okay, using SSIS tool, SQL Server Integration Services tool. And from that we are converting the two-dimensional database into multi-dimensional database using SSAS tool, which helps in querying the database faster. If a query takes 100 seconds here, when you run the query in analysis services, in relational database, and if it is taking something around 100 seconds, the same query will take less than 1 second here. So that's a major advantage of having multi-dimensional database. Okay. If your data warehouse is too small, like if your data warehouse has 10,000 or 20,000 records, then you don't need this layer at all. You don't need it. It doesn't take much. Records are 10,000 records. Even SQL Server can fetch the data in less than a second. Okay, when the data warehouse is increasing in size and it becomes damn huge, then it will take time to retrieve the data from the relational database, and in that case only we will opt for SQL Server analysis services to convert the relational database into multi-dimensional database. If your data warehouse is too small, then you can directly use this data to generate reports. Instead of going, instead of this way, creating and then point to reports, you can directly point to your relational database and you can create reports. Okay. Here, if you point to your database and you get report, you use TSQL. If it is SQL warehouse, if it is Oracle, then PLSQL, something like that. If it is MS Access, there will be a querying language to query MS Access data. So you have to use that particular querying language. Server TSQL. In full form, it is Transact SQL, structured querying language. If you are pointing and pulling data from your, then you will use this multi-dimensional expressions. You have to run MDX queries to pull data from your SSAS cube, that is also called as MOLAP cube. Multi-dimensional online analytical processing cube. Okay. And in interviews, you will face a question like, what is the difference between ROLAP and MOLAP? This is very important interview question. You can make a note of it. All relational data warehouse is one ROLAP, which is full form of that one is relational online transaction process. Online process. Just a second. Okay. Now, you know where we're going to use SSAS and MDX. Correct? SSAS is used to convert the relational database into multi-dimensional database, and MDX will be used to pull the data from your cube database to design SSAS. Okay. Now let's start looking at how to design SSAS cube from your relational database. And keep in mind, whenever you are going to work SSAS project, you are going to build a cube on top of the database. This is your database, and on top, using the data from your database, you will build a cube. Without data in relational database, there won't be a concept called cube here. Cube will be nothing. You cannot see any data in the cube database. Okay. Now let's see how to start and work on an SSAS project. And I hope you people are aware of the concepts called SSIS concepts, which are used to pull data from different sources and push it into one destination, which we are calling it as data warehouse. And data warehouse is nothing but the collection of a database which will have the complete history of data. For example, if you see, take a bank site as example, you will have last 3 months of data in your database, and you will push all the previous data, history of data into either data warehouse, or you will archive the data. So you are going to use the complete archived data to analyze how the bank is performing, how the bank sales, how many customers are there, and whether it's increasing year by year or whether it's increasing, and how about the sales this month, this year, and what is the variance of this month sales to, this month revenue to last year's same month revenue. You can do so many calculations to analyze how your bank is performing or how your business is performing using the data warehouse, the complete history of data. So in data warehouse, you will maintain the complete history, whereas in your database, you will have only some set of data, like last 3 months or last 2 months or last 1 month. It depends on how much data you are getting for 1 month. Okay. Now let me tell you the base differences between data warehouse and database, normal database. Database, it will accept, update, delete, and you can select. You can write any kind of DML statement, whereas in data warehouse, it is used just to retrieve the data for your analysis purposes. And data warehouse will have complete history of data, whereas database will have only some set of data. Okay. Now let's start working on SSAS project, how to design a cube and what are all the steps you have to follow while designing the cube. Okay, once you install SQL Server, then while installing SQL Server, you can select whether you want these tools as part of your SQL Server installation or not. The tools include SSIS tools, SQL Server Integration Services, and SSAS tools, SQL Server Analysis Services, and SSRS tools, SQL Server Reporting Services tool. It depends on your requirement. If you are going to work on only pulling the data from sources and pushing into one destination, then SSIS tool is enough. if you want to do some analysis service projects, if you want to convert the data into multi-dimensional one, then you need SSAS tool. So it depends on your requirement. You have to install the tools that are required for your project. Once you install SQL Server and the tools that are required for your project, you can see those tools. You can see a folder called SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, and under that you can see SQL Server Management Studio, which is used to query the data from your database, and SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio. In short, we call it as BIDS, which is used to design your SSIS, SSAS, and SSRS projects. This is the only one framework which we are going to use to design all three kinds of projects. Okay. Before going into the project, let's see how to start the services. There will be one service for all for each tool. For example, SSAS will have one service running on it. It will be not when you work on a project. Okay. Under configuration tools, server configuration manager. Here you can see all the services that will be running. Okay, the services that under this SQL Server. So this is SQL Server MSQL Server. If this is running, then only you can query data. Okay. And this service, SQL Server Analysis Services, is for developing and designing analysis service projects. And the third one is reporting services for reporting service kind of projects, and this is integration services for IS projects. Okay. And this agent is for configuring jobs, which is part of triggering SSIS packages and all. You will come to know later. And let's see how to start and stop a services. If you right click on that, you can see start, stop, pause, resume, and restart. You can do whatever action you want. Like you can stop it or you can pause it, you can restart it. If the server is hanged, then you can restart the service. Okay. And if you want it to close the service permanently, I mean, you can find some options like automatic disable under service here. If you click on if you select automatic, then whenever your system boots, whenever you log into your system, then automatically service will start. And when you set it to manual, then when you log in, you have to come here and you have to manually log in. I mean, start the service. The service in stop remote. Okay, and disable. If you set it disable, you cannot start this until you change it to automatic or manual. You cannot see, for example, let's set it. I set it. It's still refreshing. And the advantage of this one is each and every kind of project has different service. And if you're working on IS project, then you don't need to run SSA service and SSRS service, which will save your memory and CPU usage. Now I stopped it. If I right click on that, then I cannot see the options enabled for me to start or stop or pause or resume or restart the service. Why? Because I set the property service start mode to disable. If I change it to automatic, then only I can start it, or whenever my system reboot, the service will get started automatically. Now I'm right clicking, I can see the option start here. Okay. And whenever you design the SSAS project and whenever you try to deploy it, then if it says check whether the server is running or not, then you have to come here and see whether it is running or not. If it is not running, just start the service and then deploy the project again, then it will get deployed. Okay. And most of the people will set it to manual. Why? Because the system booting will take a lot of time. Whenever you log in for first time, it will take a lot of time. Why? Because it has to start all the services before the desktop opens, right? And there is one more place where you can see the services, that is services.msc. You can use this command, and here it will list all the services that are running in the system. And from that list, you have to select the service that you want, and you can start and do whatever the action you want. So my services will be under here. You can see the same services and same kind of options on right click. Okay. Okay, now I started the services, everything fine, everything is set for my for designing a new SSAS project, or in other words, converting relational database into multi-dimensional database. Let's see how to do that. For designing any project, like any BI project, ISAS or RS project, you have to use .NET framework, that is SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio. Okay, select this. And here it lists all the recent projects that you have worked on. If you have not worked on any project, then it will be blank. And this is called Solution Explorer button icon. If you click on this, the Solution Explorer will open. This Solution Explorer will contain the complete details of the project that you're working on. Or you can say the complete solution details, like how many files are there, how many pages added, something like that. And this is properties, and this is toolbox. Okay, and we don't need this toolbox item in SSAS project. This toolbox is for SSIS and SSRS projects. And as the framework is same for all the three kinds of projects, you will find so many, all the icons available, and you may not need all the icons, all the properties that they are providing. And how to start a new project. Let's see how to start a new one, and let's start working on a new project now. You have to go to File, New, and create a new project. This website is for creating ASP.NET projects, Microsoft .NET projects, not for BI projects. If you install .NET in your local machine, .NET framework and all, Visual Studio and .NET framework, then you can make use of this website option to create new ASP.NET applications, just like your Gmail or Facebook or any web applications, or even you can create Windows applications too. Now we have to go to project, and the project, it will list all kinds of projects that you can develop using this BITS environment. Okay, here you can see list of projects: Integration Service Connections project, Import Analysis Service 2008 database project, and Integration Service project. All these are SSRS projects, and these two are IS projects, and these two are AS related projects, and remaining are RS related projects. Now we are going to work on SSAS projects, and let's select this analysis service project and give some name. Let's give some proper name. Let's work on add works. We're going to work on Adventure Works database, and that's why I'm naming it as add. And here you see the location where the solution file will go on store. Solution. And this is the solution name. If I click on OK, Solution Explorer will with folders. Save project and all from here. See, this is the project which I have created now, correct? Add works. And it created, now project is it's empty. Okay, let's see here. This is the Solution Explorer. A project, a SSAS project will have all these data. You'll have these 7 folders or 8 folders, 8 containers we can call as data sources, data source views, cubes, dimensions, mining structures, roles, assemblies, and miscellaneous. And if you can fill some valid data, valid files into data sources, data source views, cubes, and dimensions, then your cube solution is ready. I mean, you moved relational data into multidimensional data. And this roles is to provide security, that is not a mandatory one. Mining structures is to mine the data, this is not a mandatory one. Assemblies is to add some assemblies that are required for your project, it is not a mandatory one. And miscellaneous is to add some document for project related document files like your DDS documents or high level design documents and all. You can ship all these documents with the solution itself. Okay. So these 4 are not mandatory to finish an SSAS project, but the remaining 4 are mandatory. You have to fill some data, valid data into data sources and data source views and cubes and dimensions. And now let's see one by one what is the use of each item here. And let's add some data into each folder, and let's see whether the data is converted into multi-dimensional database or not once the cube is processed. Before going there, let's see some useful information here, useful properties, context menu items. You can see build, deploy, and process. These 3 items, very important one, build, deploy, and process. Okay. Build, what it will do is, here you can see build succeeded. It will check whether there is any syntax errors or not. If there is any syntax errors, then it will throw errors saying that you have done some mistake. You have to change. This is not the correct syntax. You are trying to reference some object which is not there, something kind of. If there is any syntax errors, it will throw. And deploy, what it will do is, I will design something here. As I told you, I will put some valid data into these folders. Once I place this data into these folders, then it will deploy that particular structure, the skeleton, into the server. Okay. If I have pointed to some server in USA, this structure will be deployed into that particular server. And if I click on process, what it will do is, it will pull the data from your relational database and it will push into the structure what you deployed in your server. So 3 steps. One is, it will check for errors, that is build, then it will deploy the structure, that is deploy, and then the process will do pushing the data into the deployed structure. And I will explain it again once we filled with some files in under that, once we added some objects in that. And everything in SSAS is called as an object. For example, data sources is an object, data source view is an object, dimensions is an object, cubes is an object. Under cubes there are so many objects like measures, calculations, and many others. So let's see how to create each object here. And what's the use of each object. Let's discuss about that one. The first one is data sources. What is the use of data source? If you remember the diagram what I have drawn an image saying this relational database and MOLAP is on top of relational database. So if I am designing some cube database or multidimensional database, then okay, these data sources, the data sources is used to set the path between the cube data, the solution and the relational database. I am building a cube on top of some relational database, or in other words, we are calling it as data warehouse. So I have to set some physical connection between the solution and the data warehouse. So this data source will help in setting the connection. If you have experience in working on any languages, then to access the database or to manipulate the data in your database through your .NET language or Java or PHP or any front-end language, then you will write a connection string first, and you will set the connection, and you will execute the query, and you will manipulate the data. So now I have to access the data from my relational database. My data warehouse is the base for me here, correct? From which I will.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
1 second.
Okay.
Okay. This data sources is mainly used to set the physical connection between the data warehouse and your SSAS projects. Okay. And now let's see. Let's see how to create data source and connection between your data warehouse and your SSAS solution. Right click, add new data source, and wizard open. If you have any source connections given in your earlier project, that one will be listed here. In this computer, if you created any other solutions, any other projects, SSAS projects, and if you have given any source connections, then those things will be listed here. Else, it looks like this. It is the first project that you are going to work on this on SSAS in your machine, SSAS project in your machine, then it looks like this. Then you have to click on new, and you can select any data source. It is not mandatory that the data source should be only SQL Server. If it is SQL Server, then it provides more features and more. There will be more help from database to SSAS project, but it is not mandatory that it should be SQL Server. You can select another analysis service as your input, or you can use Oracle as your input, or you can use SQL Server, Microsoft directory services. There are so many services, MS Datasheet. But now we are going to work on SQL Server database. That's why I selected SQL Server Native Client 10.0. And here you have to give server in which your data warehouse is. For me, my data warehouse is in my local machine, that is Lenovo-PC. And you have to provide your authentication mode, whether it's Windows authentication or SQL Server authentication. And if it is SQL Server authentication, you have to provide ID and password here. And if it is Windows, my machine has Windows authentication, so I'm selecting Windows authentication here. And you have to select the data warehouse, which is your data warehouse. Okay, I have data in my AdventureWorks DW database. So I set my connection here. Test the connection whether it is correct, whether it is set properly or not. Okay, it is working fine. And every database will have .mdf files and .ndf files, LDF files, main database file and log database file. MDF file will have all the data in it. LDF file will have all the transactions. In few cases, if you don't have SQL Server installed in your machine, then if you want to create project pointing to SQL Server database which is shared with some other person, then if it is in MDF file and LDF file, then you can simply browse to that MDF. And instead of if you don't have SQL Server Management Studio, then you can select the MDF file here and you can it will act like a database. No change that a database by giving server name or by giving MDF files and L files. Let's go with this. And next, this is impersonation information. How, I mean, the impersonation, like the validation that server has to check when it is connecting to your data warehouse. For example, everyone should not have access to connect to the data warehouse. So there you can restrict it. If you select you can give any username and password, valid username and password that is there in your network. You know, in any company there will be a big network. Under that there will be so many systems. Like for me one machine, for some other guy another machine, some other guy other machine, like that. And if I give my ID and password, only I can process the cube and I can access the data from the cube. And if I use credentials of the current user, the user with which I log into this particular machine, that user ID credentials will be taken. And if I process the same solution from some other machine tomorrow, then I have to give that guy's ID and password. Use service account analysis service. While installation, it will ask for some service account, and if the account what you have given, it will take which will have admin rights. It will have complete admin rights, and if you select service account, you can directly access to the database, and you can process the cube and you can do whatever you want. And inherit is also called as default account. It is just like an user account which will have in services, analysis services user account. So it will have very limited access. It will not have full access. And this page, this particular wizard page, is mainly for impersonating your database house. So better to go with service account always, which will have admin rights and everyone can process the cube. Why? Because the cube will have access to the people who is working on that. It will not be given access to the outside people, the solution access. So it's better to go with service account always, unless high level security are required. Click on next and give some data warehouse, data source name. I'm giving AdventureWorks DW or simply AdventureWorks. Now my data source is created, and I can create same data source by Control C. I copied it by clicking on Control C. I'm doing Control V. It is asking for new name. If I click on OK, a new data source is created. This is that easy to create data source here. Copying and pasting the same. But what's the use of pointing to the same database and creating so many connections? Actually, all these are not useful options provided by Microsoft, but these are also an option. That's why we are discussing about this here. Okay, and remember, per project at max you need 1 or 2, depending on how your data warehouse is designed. For example, if you are getting data from 2 different data warehouses to your project, then you need 2 connections here. If you are getting 3 from 3 different data sources, data from 3 different data sources, then you need 3 different data sources here. Okay, this is the use of data sources, and this is how we have to design data sources here. And we set the data source, and let's take a quick 5 minutes break before we go into data source views, which is a very important concept. Okay. One second. Okay, these data sources, it's a one-time job. Once you set the data source connection to your data warehouse, and you're not going to do it again when you're working on these analysis service projects. Now the most important one of this analysis service project is data source views. Data source view, if you design data source view properly, then half of the work, half of the burden will be reduced from you in designing the other objects of SSAS. Okay, what is data source view? Let me add a new one. And data source view is mainly used to filter the number of tables that you want. That's the main advantage, main use of data source view. For example, let's say we set connection to AdventureWorks database, which is there in my local server. Okay, and in my AdventureWorks database, let's assume there are 100 tables, and 100 tables have fused data. And for doing my analysis and to meet my requirements that are given by the clients, I need only 10 tables. Then why I have to pull all the 100 tables? It is of no use. So this data source view will help me in filtering the number of tables that are required for my analysis purpose. And once the data source view is created, defined, then after that the remaining objects, the following objects like dimensions, cube, measures and all will be able to see only data source view, not the underlying data or tables in the data source. It can see only up to data source view, not beyond that. I mean, the other objects cannot see the tables that are there in the data warehouse or the database that you're pointing to. Okay. Here you have to select data source which you want to, on top of which you want to create the data source view, and it's already defined here, AdventureWorks data source, and the same is selected here. If you have many data sources created, then you can pick one from here. Or if no data sources created here, then you can use data source, which will take you back into the same wizard which you worked on in creating data sources, the same wizard. Okay, already we created the data source, so I don't want anything now. I'm pointing to the data source and click on next. Here is the important step. Here is the place where you will select you will filter the tables that are required for your analysis purpose. This is the list of tables that are there in your database or data warehouse. Okay, but I don't need all the tables. I need 1 or 2 tables or 10 tables max to doing the analysis or to meet the requirements given by the client. In that case, what I will do is I will select only that particular table. For example, I need fact internet sales table for my analysis, and once I added this table, you can see this button is enabled. Let me delete this from here, and you can see the button is disabled, and once I add that, or any table if I add, the button will be enabled. Why? Because if I click on this button, it will fetch the related tables. For example, if I have 10 tables which are directly related using foreign key relationship to this particular table, then it will pull all the tables. So it has 7 tables that are directly related to this particular fact table. I hope everyone is aware of these foreign key relationships, and this is the use of this add related tables button. And this option is to filter out, if you have huge number of tables, you can filter out the tables that start with fact or some part of the table name you can provide, and you can filter out the data. And the show system objects will help, will show all the system related objects like system created views. Whenever you create a database in empty database in your SQL Server database server, then it will add so many system views, system stored process and all. So if you see in brackets SYS, that means this is a system object. So normally you don't need these system objects. In some cases you may need that. So for that they provided this option. Now I selected the tables here. What are the tables that are required for my analysis? And now the new set of tables are selected like this one. And if I click on add related tables, then the tables that are related to this particular set of tables will be displayed. And if I click again, it will keep on coming until the last part is reached, until there is no other table which has relationship. Okay. I'm deleting all these things I don't need for my analysis. So let me delete everything. I want the tables that are related to only fact internet sales. Okay, next, and this is the tables that I selected and clicked on finish. My data source view is created. And if you see, this is the table I selected first, and I clicked on add related tables, and I got these set of tables, these 7 tables, and if you see, everything is related. Correct? And if you don't want any table, you can simply select it and delete it. And if you want to arrange these tables, you can right click and arrange tables. It will give you good look and feel. Now, before going to the concepts of, properties given for this data given in the data source view, let's discuss about some important concepts here. Like one is dimension table and the fact table. Okay, if you take any question asked by any user to analyze his market, there will be 2 answers, and there will be 2 questions. Like, for example, let's take cricket database. I'm a big cricket fan. I missed this match. I went to my friend and I asked who match. Here, 2 answers, and 1 are lost. Australia is the 2 ones. Okay. How score such means that is one answer here. Set of question, score number of or 4 seed. This question. So any answer. Sachin hit 4 runs. India won, and India hit first, and Sehwag was 2 weeks. So if you see any answer, one is data, one is merit data. Sachin, India, Sehwag, and competition name. These are actual, and the second part is metric data. Match kind of data. So if we hold the data, which hold data, it's important. If you don't know this, you are not. So the tables which hold your textual data, just a second. Okay. The tables that hold the textual data is called dimension tables, and the tables that hold the metrics or some numeric data are called our fact tables. Here in this database, if you see, this table is started with name dim. This table is started with dim. This table is started with fact, which means fact table, dim means dimension table. And don't expect these kind of naming conventions in all the data warehouses. They won't give like that. They won't give whether it's a dim or fact, something like that. What they will give is they will just give internet sales, they will give time, they will give currency, they will give sales territory. You have to identify on your own whether it's your dimension table or fact table. How to identify the dimension table and fact table? Just by seeing the requirements. If you want to see month-wise sales, then sales will be your measure. Sales will be your fact table, right? The sales is, so this one will be your fact table. And dim time, if you want to here, I push these questions to you. How to see the data? I want the time wise. I want the data from wise. I want to see the data product wise. So how you want the answer is what data you want to see? Like I want to see tax amount, I want to see unit price amount. So that is your measures. Okay. 1 second. So this is how you have to identify whether it's a sales, dimension table or fact table. Okay. Now let's see one more concept, that is types of schema. You have 2 types of schema mainly, and there are so many other types of schema people are adding on daily basis. Like one guy says universal schema and one guy says hybrid schema. So the main types of schemas that are available, that are known, that are given in internet two, that is SSAS schema and Snowflake schema. Now you know how to identify your fact table and your dimension table. Okay, this is this is your fact table in this case, and these are your dimension tables. When the fact table is directly related to all the dimension tables, then that kind of schema is called SSAS schema. Okay. Now if you see, the fact table here is directly related to customer, is directly related to time, is directly related to currency, directly related to sales territory, and to product and to promotion. So this schema is called SSAS schema. In SSAS schema, the dimension tables and the fact table are directly related. Okay. And let me show you an example. When the dimension table and the fact table are not directly related, then it is called Snowflake schema. And let me show you an example. I clicked on fact internet sales and add related tables. I got this set of tables. And when I click on this, I will get new set of tables which will be related to the fact table through some other dimension tables. I clicked on OK, and you can see it here. Oops, so many. Okay. Now if you see fact internet sales, it is somewhere here. Okay. And let me delete our maximum tables and let me add it again. It is very confusing if you have this many. I have only fact table now, and let me add the related tables, and from this I don't want all these things. I'm getting confused. I have product, and product will have some other table. Okay, I have these two tables. Let me take only one. Now let me add one more. Okay. Now if you see this is my dimension table and this is my fact table, and these two are my dimension tables. When this fact table and the dimension table are directly related, then that is called SSAS schema. Now, how this dimension table and this fact table are related? Through some other table, correct? Through some other dimension table. So, this dimension table is not directly related to this fact table, and this dimension table is not directly related to this fact table. So, this kind of schema are called as Snowflake schema. In simple, SSAS schema is the schema in which the fact table and the dimension tables are directly related. And in Snowflake schema, when the dimension table and the fact tables are not directly related, then it is called as Snowflake schema. Okay. Now, let me go back and add SSAS schema now, and I'm removing these extra tables which are. Okay, I've taken a simple SSAS schema just to see the properties that are available in this. Okay, here you can see a small icon kind of thing. If you click on that, and you have to keep the, if you press that button, then you can go through the data source view like this. It will help you if your data has so many tables. Okay. Now let's see one by one option. If you right click here, there are so many options provided by SSAS that can be used as part of this data source view design. The first one is named query. This is very important one. Let me tell you the scenario where you need named query and what is named query. Named query is nothing but creating a view at data source view level. I hope everyone is aware of views, database views. Database view is nothing but a virtual table on top of the physical tables. You can use any number of tables and you can join and you can select only one or two columns in that. It's not mandatory that you have to pull all the columns. For example, my requirement is if I have a table with 100 columns, but I have to show only 2 columns that are required for my analysis. Then instead of pulling all the 100 columns data, what I will do is I will create a view on top of the data on the physical table, and I will access to that view. And I will show you how to do that in database level. Let's take product table itself. I don't want all these columns. I just want 3 columns. That is the product key, product name, and product category key. Or only those 2 columns. I'm connecting to my database engine. So this is my product table. And as part of my analysis, I don't want all these all these columns. So I just want product key, comma, English product name. Okay. And this is a valid statement. So I'm creating a view on top of it. Create view, view name, that is product underscore view as this select statement. Now I created a view on top of this, and from now onwards, instead of writing select star from product name, I can refer like select star from prod view. So it will fetch me the only filtered columns. It is not mandatory that you have to use only one table. I can join with so many tables like next. I'll show you an example for that one too. Inner join, dim product category, subcategory on dim product subcategory dot product subcategory key is equal to dim product dot product subcategory key. Now I joined 2 tables and I got product key and English product name, and I'm pulling one more thing, that is English subcategory name, English product subcategory name. Now I'm altering it. So now I alter the view. Now I'll get these 3 columns. So this is view. I'm creating a virtual one, and this table dpo.product view is a view and it won't exist in real. It is a view, it's a virtual one. Okay. In the similar way, let's say I want this access. I want access to this view, product view. What I will do is add a new related tables, and I can see that product view somewhere here, product underscore view. I can add it and I can use it in my analysis service project like this. Okay. What the case if I don't have access to SQL Server? Most of the clients, they won't give access. They won't give alter access. They will give only read access. You can read the data from SQL Server, data warehouse, or the warehouse, and they won't give you permissions to create a new view or alter the data or update the records in the one for security reasons. In that case, if you want the same functionality in data source view, you can make use of named query. I click on name, a wizard will open, and you have to provide the name and the SQL statement. What you can give any name. I'm giving the same name, product view, and you can simply copy that. And if you click on OK, and if it is valid SQL statement, then it will be created like this. Okay. If you don't know the SQL statement and if you want to create on your own, actually it will be like this. Initially, you can make use of this UI to design that. You can first you have to select the tables. I want dim product, it is added, and dim category. Sorry, dim product category. It is added, and close it, and the link is given, the inner join and everything is done. I want product key, English product name, product subcategory key, and English product subcategory. Now you can see the view is created. So in short, the named query is nothing but view created at data source view level. Why we have to create view or data source view level? Why don't you create in database level? That will be the next question. So the answer is clients won't give access to the database, as the database is highly secure one. They will set so much of security for that data warehouse. Okay. And this is the use of option data source, new named query. And let's see the next option, that is add or remove tables. You are very much aware of it. It will take you to the old wizard where you can select the tables or you can unselect the tables. Okay. And the third one, new relationship. If you observe this, the relationships is set between the tables and tables. Fact tables, dimension tables, and between two objects there is a relationship set. Correct. For example, if you see fact internet sales and dim time, the relationship is set three times here. And fact internet sales to sales territory, the relationship is set. And if you want to see the relationship, what relationship is there between these two tables, right click and edit relationship, you can see fact internet sales territory key is linked to dim sales territory key, like this. Now how to give new relationship? I added a new data, named query here, and before going to creating that relationship between these two tables, the fact table and the view data, named query, let me create logical primary key, which means the primary key column. What is the primary key column of this product view? Here I joined two tables, but still product key is my primary key column. So I am setting the primary key column. Now let's see how to add relationship. New relationship. What is my fact table? First I have to select it here, or foreign key table. Okay. Fact internet sales. From here I have to select product key, and here product view, product key. The relationship is set. Or if you can see that directly here, the product key, drag that and drop it on the particular key. It will be set. If you have any doubts, you can right click and check it. Always the foreign key table should be here. Foreign key table means this data will roll up and give this data. I'll show you an example. What is your source table and the foreign key table? Source table will have product 1, product 2, product 3. Like this, there will be a primary key column, and this is your primary key column here in this case. 1, 2, 3, and the value should not be repeated. And your path table or foreign key reference table will have data like this: $100. Sorry. Again one on some other date, $200 sales. $200. $10. $5. $3,000. Like this. If you see here the keys will be repeated in your foreign key table, and in master table, source table, it will not be repeated. And if you see, if you want to get the product 1 sale, then you are summing up, which means rolling up. You are rolling up these two things and getting product 1 data. You are rolling up these 3 things and getting product 2 data, like this, the roll up. It will be 1 to many. Here only 1 record, here many records for the same ID. So you have to keep that one in mind. Like that, if in your fact internet sales data, there will be so many records for the same product. And if you have any doubts, let's see that. Exploring the data. Explore data will give the data is there in the particular table. And where is your product key? This is your product key. If you see for product 310, there are so many records. Correct? And let's see what is that product 310. Explore data will give you the data. Where is the 310? Let me order by name. Okay, it's ordered. it is somewhere here. 310 is road 150 red 62. If you ask for road 150 red 62 sales, then what it will do is it will add all these three cards and it will give you the sales amount. It will add the sales amount. You can find the sales amount here. It will add the sales amount of all these three cards and it will give you the amount amount as output. So this is one-to-many relationship. Always this should flow from one. I mean, on your master table or your source table or on your dimension table, this arrow mark should be pointing. Okay. So this is the option new relationship. And next one is show friendly names. Here, if you see fact internet sales is not that much friendly, it won't give any meaning to the new developer. So what people will do is they will give sales data. It's a friendly name. If you uncheck this, it will give you fact internet sales bracket DBO. If you check this, it will show you the friendly name, whatever the name that you have given. And select all is to select all the, and you can, if you click on delete by select all, after clicking on select all, then everything will get deleted. And find table is to find the table. Dim time, if you click, it will be highlighted to that. And let me show that if it is hiding somewhere, and if you're not able to see, if you have some hundreds of tables in your data source view, then right click, find table, and you want to go to dim time. So it will be highlighted here. So it will take you to that particular object which you are clicking and selecting. Okay. And arrange tables. If it is not in good shape like this, when you add new table, it will come and add on top of the existing tables. So if you click on arrange tables, it will arrange the tables in order in a good way. The look and feel will be good. And this is diagonal layout. If you click on diagonal layout, few people are used to the diagonal layout. They love to work with this kind of view. So it's just a user-friendly option, developer-friendly option. Either diagonal layout or rectangle layout. You can choose whatever you want to see the data source. And I'll explain you about refresh. And zoom is to zoom the size, increase the size. And the refresh button. What is this refresh button? This is very important one. Without this, there won't be any interview. I can guarantee that. If you are giving an interview, then you can expect this question for sure. What is the use of refresh button? Or they may ask the question in different way. Let me tell you the use of this. Okay, now I added dim product table. Okay, dim product table I added and I designed some data source. Don't worry much, I'm creating a dimension now. And you don't try to understand this. I'm going to explain this again. This is just to show you an example. I added all the columns as part of my dimension. If you see, I have all the columns that are there in the product here in the attribute list. And you don't bother about what is attributes and all. So it is there or not. What are the columns that are there in the product table? I selected it here. Now a new requirement came. According to the new requirement, I got a new column into the product. I'm adding a test column which is weight of 100. Okay. Now if you see select star from product, that column should be there at the end. So test column is added. Now the client says I want that column should be part of this attribute list. So the way what you can do is you can delete this and you can add it. If you delete it and you can re-add it, what will happen is it is saying that dimension will be gone. The dimension which you created will be gone. And this is one step. And if you use this dimension in your cubes and in your calculations and in your dimension usage, everything will be gone. Everything will be go for it. Everything will go for it also. So this is very risky. So to get all the schema changes that are done, that are happened at your database level, if you click on refresh, it will go on check. It will pull like this. Dim product, a column is added. Now, okay, that column will be added to that particular table. And here if you come, you can see that simply drag and drop. That's it. The attribute is created. Okay, and this is not only for adding a column. You can drop the column, and again I'm clicking on refresh. It is saying dim product. The column is deleted. If you apply these changes, then the dimension attribute dim product or test will be no longer valid. Okay. Now I click on OK. It is no longer valid. If you see here, the test is there, but under that a red mark is showing, saying that there is no parent column for this. Now, if I click on build, it will check for syntax and it will throw error. This is the use of build. Build will check for syntax errors and it will throw error. Understood the use of build now? If there is any error, then it will throw error saying that a particular problem exists in the syntax of code, source code. I deleted that. Now if I click on build, the build will be succeeded, like you can see here. Okay. This is the properties we have, and it is not only for adding a column and dropping a column. It will be helpful whenever whenever a relationship is dropped, whenever a new relationship is added, everything will come into picture and everything will be assigned by when you click on OK. And the only problem with this one is if you click on refresh and there are 100 changes in your database schema, you cannot select a few from that list and you cannot apply few from that. Either you have to take all by clicking OK, or you have to reject all by clicking cancel. Okay. Now, let's see, there are a few more options. New named calculation. When you click on table, you can see that. But when you click on named query, I'm sure you cannot see that. This is disabled. I will tell you what is this named calculation. A named calculation is one which is used to create a virtual column on the existing database table. For example, your database table customer is there and you want to add a new column without impacting the database table, base database table that is there in your data source. In that case, you can use new named column, new named calculation, test, and what is the column that I can use? First name is this, first name plus last name, as I am giving as full name. Okay. Now I added a new column based on existing two columns, first name and last name. If you try to explore and see the data, you can see the first name and last name got added. So if you go to the database and check this dim customer table, you don't find this newly added column. This column will not reflect in your data source tables. This column will be up to your data source view level only. Okay, and it is not mandatory that you have to use existing columns. You can use some you can write an expression without specifying any column. Get date is a valid expression, so it will give me the server current date. And let me export the data. It is not mandatory that you have to use columns from the particular table, the same table, to create a new named calculation. You can just blindly, you can give any valid SQL Server expression. And let me tell you, even 1 is a valid SQL Server expression. Let me show you. Int column. I'm giving a new column name called int column, and I'm giving 1 as value. explore data, and under that int column by default 1 will be placed. If you see the same in database, it is nothing different, like 1 as int column. I'm giving an alias column here. All valid SQL statements, SQL expressions, you can use them. In the same way, get date as current date is a valid SQL expression, and you can. If any expression is not valid in SQL Server, or that right now I'm pointing to SQL Server database, so I will bother whether it's valid in SQL Server or not. If I point to Oracle, then I will check whether it's valid for Oracle database or not, like that. Okay. Now this is how you can create a name or calculations without impacting the data source tables. And if you see other options, new relationships, you know how to give relationship and all. The only difference is here, if you select, the source table will be selected by default, customer. And if you give on a particular column, the source table and the column will be selected. Okay, one step, it will decrease the one step for us. And replace table with named query. Okay, you have a customer table, but you don't want all the columns that are there in this. For example, this many number of columns. You can create a named query, but the problem is you have to delete this and you have to create a new named query. Instead of that, you can replace the existing table with a new named query. Here it will select the same, and you can see all the new columns got added here, whatever we added as using named calculation, and you can simply unselect the unwanted columns. And you can join by adding some more tables also. And you can add some other tables, and you can do just like how we created named query. So now if you see, the columns are decreased. Okay, and this relationship is not disturbed, and if you created any dimension, that one will not get disturbed. So this is how you can create a table with a named query, replace a table with a named query, or you can replace with another table. Okay, and delete from data source view, you are very well aware of this option, it will get deleted. And explore data is to show, it will show the top 1000 or some 2000 records. Okay, to show whether to check whether the data is coming correctly or not, or whether there is any problem in the column. So we can use this explore data to see the sample data that is coming into this particular object. Okay. Okay, this is about data source view, and let's meet tomorrow and discuss about the remaining objects. Thank you.